Hey everybody, welcome to the Pornfree Millennial Podcast. This is episode 50, a very special episode. The man ahead of you honoring the podcast that started it all. And just wanted to start off with a quick intro before we introduce our guest here. When we start on this road of recovery, I think there's often a man ahead of us, someone who's walked through the fire, blazed the trail, and turned back just long enough to say, you can make it too. For me, that man is Matt Dobschuetz here today, host of Pornfree Radio, and author of the book, which I have right here, Pornfree: Becoming the Type of Man Who Does Not Look at Porn. Through his podcast and writing, Matt spoke directly to the pain and confusion that I was facing back in 2018 when I really hit a rock bottom moment. And Matt, your voice was a steady guide for me and has been ever since. And I just remembered when I first listened to your podcast, I hit a rock bottom moment and I was just looking. I'd never even looked before on podcasts to say, where do I even go? And I think I typed in like quitting porn, things like that, and Pornfree Radio came up. And I remember it was a rock bottom moment for me. And at the time, I think I was about 6 months into my marriage. And I was talking to my wife at the time, and we just decided, hey, you need to get out in the mountains. So I ended up going to my grandparents' cabin about an hour and 30 minutes out of town. And no joke, I think I listened to about 30 of your podcasts in a row over a 3-day weekend while I was fly fishing out there. And really, May 2018, that's when I look back at it. And I look back at that moment. And that's really what kicked it off for me, was your podcast and your story. So it's an honor to have you here today, and just appreciate you so much, all the work that you've done. It's been really meaningful for me.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for saying that. And you're not the only guy to listen to me while they're like fly fishing or painting a bedroom or drywalling. I feel like I go along with a lot of projects. And the irony is people integrate me in things that I'm not good at or have never done in my life. So that's the funny thing. I grew up in the city. I've never fly fished, and I have painted one bedroom, but other than that, I am not handy at all. So it's funny. I hear people go, yeah, I was on a job site and I was listening to you, and I'm like, that's awesome.
I still remember in my mind, there was this time in my life where I was in really good shape. I think I've added about 50 pounds since that time. But there's this time where, man, I got about to a little over 2 years of sobriety. And I'd listened to your podcast. I still remember where I was in Denver area in Colorado. I think I ran about 3 5Ks a week. I was just in really good shape. And I remember I'd turn this corner and it'd be like right when your intro would start. And I'm even getting goosebumps now. You have such a great intro. And I just get so fired up turning that corner. It'd be like a jet boost for me in my run, you know? So that's funny that you mentioned that, man. At least for me, I listen to podcasts all the time. So it's cool how it integrates into our lives. And what a great message that you have. You've been doing it now for over 11 years, I believe. You just celebrated that milestone.
Yeah, I just got to 11 years.
Wow.
And just put out a podcast this week after taking a hiatus. So it was cool to kind of acknowledge that because, yeah, it started in 2014. And like you, I was working in corporate America doing a podcast kind of on the side, and then it became my thing. But it was a real great outlet for me creatively and fun, and then it turned into something even more than I could have ever expected. So the idea that you were listening at some point in your journey, and other people, I mean, I've heard stories like that also. And I relate to it too, in the sense that I listen to podcasts and have really, how you connect with the podcaster kind of at a deeper level. So yeah, there's definitely podcasters that really influenced me, and not so much in recovery, but in business and in life. And so it's like those voices were kind of really strong influences for me. And So it kind of led me into podcasting.
Yeah, and I would say just to jump into the theme of the episode, right? The man ahead of you, and I was talking about my rock bottom moment that led me to stepping into recovery, what I actually call recovery, right? Because I think I was first exposed to porn when I was 10, and I grew up Catholic. There's definitely that guilt there. I think in second grade, I thought basically I was just going to go to hell because, hey, you looked at porn, you committed this sin, you're done, you're toast. So I had all this shame in my head. And there were times, where I would just quit. I'd white knuckle, I'd quit porn, I'd throw away the Playboy magazine, say I'd never do it again, but then I'd come back to it. But I think when 2018, when I listened to your podcast, that's when I actually started to think about porn in a different way and my relationship with porn. I think one thing that you mentioned before it stuck with me forever is, porn is the solution. We see this as a solution in our lives to fix something, right? So maybe just to start off with, before we jump into the man ahead of you and that person that blazed the trail for you, what was that rock bottom moment for you, or that moment that really got you into recovery when it changed things for you?
There's a couple of moments, and what I realize is, um, it's not just one moment usually
Sure.
that really changes you, but there's a couple of moments that stand out when you look back. And one of them was getting caught by my wife downloading pornography a couple of years into marriage. We just celebrated 26 years yesterday.
Wow,
We're
congratulations.
going out tonight actually to celebrate. But this would have been 2 years into marriage, so we're
Mm,
barely past our second anniversary. And she catches me downloading porn, and even though porn had been a part of my life before, it kind of escalated in my marriage just because intimacy, I think, was more challenging than I expected. And actually being married to someone challenged um, a lot of the weaknesses and vulnerability in my life and my wounding. And I wasn't really ready for some of the intensity of it.
mm,
And so I escaped with porn and didn't have a lot of tools and was kind of isolated. And so when she caught me, it was like two things happened. One, this secret was kind of revealed, but
mm.
also the need for this deeper healing and some of these wounds to come out needed to come out. So in some ways I was relieved.
Mm.
It wasn't like a rock bottom where everything was just my life is ending. Some of it was like my life is beginning.
Right.
And she said something to me in the early days, like maybe day one, maybe day two. I don't even remember, because we had kind of this ongoing conversation for about 3 or 4 days after this revelation. And she said, I, she said, boy, now I can't even remember it. She said something like, I know this isn't about me,
Mm.
which that was wisdom. I don't know how she somehow, I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
how
amazing.
she figured that. She goes, I know this isn't about me, but you need help. She was like,
Mm.
this can't be something that just you and I kind of manage or try to like whatever.
Right.
And so she had heard about a Christian program in this city. It wasn't specifically about porn, actually. It was about kind of your identity in Christ and there was a sexual and relational component to it, and growing and in your faith. And she had heard about this, and she said, I think you should do that group. And it was that moment that kind of got me thinking, yeah, I should sign up for that group. Interestingly enough, 30 days later, she went to a trip to San Francisco. And I tell the story in my book, and I've told the story on the podcast a few times. I had a big plan. I had a plan to get together with people and connect. And while she was gone, I filled up my schedule with activities. But sure enough, Friday night, first Friday night she's gone, I go down in the basement, find some old modem. This is dating
Mm.
me. And I said, I don't even think this thing works. And then I spend the next couple hours fixing it,
Mm.
and it logs in.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, it's only been 30 days since that big revelation, since my whole world opened up. And here I am right back at the doorstep, literally at the doorstep. I remember I told this story once. I was standing at the threshold of the office and I could see the cursor on Yahoo blinking. This is back before Google. So you'd start a lot of stuff on Yahoo.
I
And
remember
I
that.
could see Yahoo, the cursor blinking. And I remember thinking, I could hear my heart beating. And it was
Oh
like,
wow, yeah.
and I was just like sitting there going, am I going to go back to this place? Like it's only
Mm.
30 days. It's my wife's first time away. And here I am right back, kind of compulsively going through this, exercise to get online. And in a moment of kind of, insanity almost, I ran to the computer, ripped out the modem. It was an internal modem. I ripped it out and I took a hammer and broke the modem. And so I kind of thought for a second, okay, well that's freedom, and I kind of felt good about myself. But immediately I felt like a dark presence in my apartment, and it felt like and to this day, I mean, I'm not one of these people who's like super into, um, demonic movies or stuff like that. But I can't tell if I was having the world's worst panic attack or whether a demon came into my apartment. It was literally that crazy. And I called her crying. She's in San Francisco. She picks up the phone and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Oh, I just got scared because I did this thing and I felt horrible, a lot of shame." She said, if you're still scared, why don't you go to your sister's house? And so
Mm.
I actually, at like 2 or 3 in the morning, went to my sister's house, and slept on the couch, came back the next day, and everything was fine. All the lights were on because I had turned on all the lights in my panic.
Sure.
But okay, that's a long,
No, no, go ahead.
but so I don't know, was the rock bottom getting caught, or this rock bottom, um, happens where I was by myself? That second time, I remember thinking, whatever this is big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, and again, I don't know if it was like demonic or I don't know if it was a panic attack, but it just revealed that just this thing has so much weight and takes up so much space in my life that I'm almost having a breakdown, uh, on a Friday night randomly in the summer.
Right.
And that's when I committed to going to the group that she suggested. Before, it was kind of a suggestion and I was like, yeah, maybe. And then by the end of that weekend, I was like, I'm going to that group no matter what. And so that really started this journey for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story. It's interesting that you brought that up because it was just 2 episodes ago. I one of the guys I've had on a few times, his name's Dr. Gregory Bors. He's a philosophy and English professor, and he teaches film class. And he was mentioning to me the movie The Exorcist, which I've never seen before, and I've been putting off like my whole life because I'm like, I don't want to. I'm kind of like you, I don't really like those demonic movies, but I ended up watching it, and we actually did a discussion about that movie and its significance, and really like questioning your faith and those moments in time. Really,
First of
that
all, great
yeah.
director.
Oh yeah.
Freakin' just passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, no kidding.
And he's got a couple other great movies to watch. Sorcerer is another one that he did that was amazing.
Okay, I'll have to write that one
Um,
down.
so yeah,
Sorcerer.
I'm a fan of his work, although I've never seen The Exorcist.
Surprisingly, I thought I was going to be really terrified. It was I think watching it as an adult, I think if I watched it as a kid, I think I would have scared the crap out of me. But as an adult, I think it was just like some things were kind of relatable because I've had some demonic dreams where I actually committed an exorcism in my dream, which we talked about last episode, where I think as a Christian, you have to be able to see some of these things and feel it and be like, hey, this is something. I don't quite know what it is, but it's something in my life. And I think that's an important thing that you brought up in your story is having that just that that force, that presence of feeling its weight and its significance. Because I think, at least in my life growing up with porn, I always knew there was something wrong with it, but I don't think I quite understood like how it could affect me or how it could affect other people, you know? And I think that's what a lot of people say sometimes where they haven't quite thought about it is it's not really that big of a deal. You know, like no one really cares. It's just my thing. Until it starts to affect other people and it starts to affect you. And then it's this giant weight that you're carrying. And then it's like, how do I work through this? Like, how do I,
Well,
you know?
I think what's interesting, and they say this sometimes in other recovery groups, other types of addiction type things, is like, well, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Well, then just quit. Like, what? Why can't you quit?
Mm,
Right? It really revealed, or try to manage it. Like, see how that goes. Um, they say this in one of the I think it's in the AA main text. They say, if you're kind of not sure that this is true, then why don't you try some managed drinking and see how it goes? Like,
mm,
if you can manage your drinking and not end up in these escalating, challenging places, then go for it. But if you do find yourself, you know, breaking a modem at night and crying and running to your sister's house, may, right?
right.
To get safety, maybe you should reevaluate like your life choices and try to figure out like maybe there's more to this than even I've given myself permission to even see the consequences and even some of the hold it has on me.
Yeah. And then so you were saying that's kind of when you started to go to groups and uh maybe walk us through that a little bit. Like did that really start to open your eyes just to like a world of recovery or of at least for me, I think when I started listening to your podcast and I eventually joined your group, I think it just opened up like a vocabulary for me where like words had different meaning, actions had different meaning. I think a big thing that you have in your book is awareness being a big thing, and just being aware of what your thoughts are and what your habits are. Is that something that started to come like early as you're going through, or did it take some time to develop that?
Well, as I said, interestingly enough, I went to a group that was about honesty and being open and about your identity um, as a Christian, and sexual and relational brokenness and issues were part of what you could talk about. And it was interesting. There weren't, as far as I remember, any other porn guys in the group.
Mm,
And but yet I still found freedom in being able to explain some of the internal things that were coming up for me, and even starting to verbalize what I saw, like what was going on with me. I remember, uh, telling the guys that I had struggled that week with going to a Blockbuster. This is dating me. I know this is a millennial show, but I
yeah, I've had all generations on,
right.
so
So I I was at a Blockbuster and I was just looking at movie covers of movies that were um not necessarily pornographic. It was Blockbuster, but
right.
ones that would be stimulating and kind of fantasizing like what would it be like to rent this movie or get this movie. And I felt kind of stupid, like why am I standing in a video store? And I was trying to get like a hit, right? I was trying to get like a little bit of a buzz.
Right.
Uh, and I remember bringing it to the group, and one of the group leaders was like, "Well, Matt, I don't understand what was the problem. Like, they didn't even understand what it was." And I said, "Well, here's the thing. I think I really want to act out, and this was like kind of a sneaky way to try to like get close to acting out. And so it's like, it's edging behavior, or I didn't have that language back then, but I said, I was kind of playing with fire or on the edge or kind of, you know, and, and just even admitting that created a place to just have more strength and to, I don't know, like, I think that became less of a thing. I wasn't stopping at Blockbuster after work anymore, to kind of, and so being able to talk about what was coming up for me really started freeing me. At the same time, the leader, his name was Mario. He just had a real way of having a lot of empathy for our woundedness and even poor choices that we've made, but a way to provide hope. Like, he had a lot of hope in his life. And so I remember kind of grabbing on to the hope. I remember he started the first group by saying anything worth doing is worth doing badly. And for some reason, as a Christian kid, that was really freeing. Like, yeah, I'm not perfect. And
Right.
I've actually been very imperfect in this pursuit so far. So the idea that he's saying, hey, even if this is kind of sloppy or messy, it's worth doing. That was hopeful for me.
That's that's great because I know that and just wanted to do a plug. My little brother wanted to say hi. He listens to your podcast all the time too. But I think we mentioned it. He was my first interview I ever had on my podcast. My little brother. We're
Hey, cool story,
accountability
bro.
partners. Uh, but one of the things that we took from you that you've mentioned before is ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better from Samuel Beckett. And when you were sharing that reminded me of that. And did you kind of get that quote from that in a way when he says fail to do something badly?
No,
Where'd you
it's
get that?
interesting you mention it.
Yeah.
Like, I was an English major, so I love where the quotes come from. And if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing badly, was from an essay by the Catholic writer G.K. Chesterton. He was actually writing about schools, about school education in England, and that's where that quote comes from. But yeah, the Beckett quote is from a play called Westward Ho, and it's actually dialogue in the play. It's not him saying, "Hey, here's some good advice." It's like actually dialogue in the play. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, so
That's great.
a character actually says that. So, but I love both of those, the sentiments of both of them. That's one thing that I think keeps people stuck is they have this perfectionism mindset. And then when they have a failure or when they have a setback, they kind of chuck everything like that didn't work, versus getting incrementally better and learning how learning how to improve with failure. Speaking about Mario, I
Yeah.
remember one thing he said once that I loved was, we came back from like Christmas break, and this is like a 9-month program, and you had to commit to not drinking during the program too, which was another story for me. Just it's not that I had so much of a problem with alcohol, but it was very conspicuous when I started showing up at work parties and was drinking like a Sprite. And people would ask, why aren't you drinking? And then I had a choice. Do I say, well, I'm in recovery for this porn problem, or do I just make some story up that they're not going to believe? Because they're like, why is he drinking a Sprite?
Right,
So
right.
I had all these funny conversations with coworkers and friends as I showed up at parties and softball games and didn't drink. And but Mario, after Christmas, he sort of came in and said, listen, You might have had a hard time over the holidays. You might have drank a little bit, or you may have slipped on some of your recovery stuff. And yeah, holidays are stressful, and you know, there's going to be places where you're still learning how to do this. And so don't beat yourself up. And I don't know what it was about that message. I had a pretty good holiday, but I still felt comforted. Like if I did mess up, I'd be okay. And actually this person is, you know, is there for me. So it's okay if I was perfect, and it's okay if I totally screwed everything up.
Sure.
And the important thing is that I'm here. And I have tried to reiterate that message for years whenever I ran groups after holidays, because inevitably someone has a royal screwed up holiday.
Sure.
And they're coming in with a ton of shame. And if they come back at all, I've had people who don't come back after the holidays. And so whenever anyone's sitting there after the holiday, before they share anything, I try to do that Mario speech because I think it was so helpful for me.
Yeah, it is. When you were talking, it made me think about how, because I think similar to what you were sharing, alcohol for me has been interesting as well. Like I'm almost at 6 months sober. I'm walking it with my little sister right now and my mom. But I feel like the times like where I did drink a lot were times that linked to a relapse. But as you're talking, it is interesting how holidays, uh, I think they link to a lot of memories, right? And they could be like really good memories. They could be really negative memories. So it's interesting that you bring that up because and alcohol is interesting because, right, like it's interesting when you're on the outside of it, maybe when you've taken a break from drinking, of how much times like we connect. Well, I'll stop drinking after this holiday. But then it's like a few weeks later, there's another thing. And it's like, well, maybe I'll wait after that. And
Wow, Super Bowl's coming up. So, you know,
right.
after Super Bowl.
Yeah, and in some ways, with porn as well, it your mind kind of does those tricks to where it's like, well, maybe I'll wait until after this, or this will be the
She
last
puts out
date.
videos on Friday, so I'll I'll stop on Saturday.
Yeah, I'll stop on Saturday, right? And it's interesting, like these it's almost like these negotiation tactics that you do with your subconscious. That's a thing that my therapist has been another one of those guys, I think, that's been a man ahead of me, that's helped me. And I remember he would always just bring up like you're kind of like at war with like your subconscious self. Like your subconscious is telling you this thing because maybe the subconscious is connecting porn to healing or improperly, or like to coping, to where it's trying to get you there to say, hey, you're feeling this way, let's go here. And you have to like go to war with it a little bit and fight back and say, no, actually, I don't need to do that. Like I have autonomy. Like I have a choice I can make. Um, but those are just thoughts going through my head talking about the holidays, because that is uh, it's something I think a lot of people go through. So it's cool that Mario was able to bring that up, that just that level of empathy and understanding. I think understanding, right? Like that's a huge component of recovery, is feeling like you're understood.
That is, I'm going to take over and just transition this conversation because I know
Yeah.
where you want to go with this.
Yeah, go ahead.
That idea of understanding is so important. Feeling understood, and the reason why is that's where hope comes from.
Mm.
And here's what it is. And this ties in with the man ahead of me. When Mario shared his story, or another friend of mine, I was thinking of this man ahead, John, a friend of mine, when they share their story and they are able to accurately explain how they're feeling, what was their thinking, what they did, and it sounds like me, okay?
Mm.
I feel understood, right? Me too.
Right, right.
Me too. Like I understand. I hear your story. I understand. It's why podcasting worked really well, right? Me telling my imperfect stories helps Mac in Colorado understand his unperfect story, right? Understood.
Yep.
But here's the big transition point. When I look at Mario, when I looked at John, they were in a place farther ahead than me.
Right.
They had grown. They had changed or transformed an area of their life of weakness into strength. They had integrated some tools and more understanding. And the thing that does for you is it gives you hope, because you say, I'm like John because I heard his story and I know what he's done and what his thinking was, but John changed, so can I. That's the man in front of me thing. That's why it's so important, right? It's because I'm like John changed, so can I. And that so can I is so important because when you're by yourself, isolated, alone, there's a part of you, whether it's ego or whether it's some inner critic that just goes, yeah, Mac, you're not really,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to do this.
Sure.
Oh, your marriage is kind of on the fritz. You're not, who are you? You're not going to be able to do this. You're going to go back to it. There's that sense like, and then when you talk to someone who's gone through what you've gone through, you can just tell yourself, well, John did it. Like if I know nothing else, I know he did it. And so there's gotta be a way for me to be able to do it because I'm like him. One thing on my podcast, I try to say over and over, and I don't know if guys believe it anymore. I really loved porn. Like I had the same things like you. I did binge and purge, and I never felt good about it in the sense of like, I wasn't one of these guys who was just like, oh yeah, porn's great. I just have all these, videos. Look at all my videos. I wasn't like that. I always hid it. I always felt like it was a secret. But inside it, when I'm watching it, when I'm searching for it, it's like the greatest thing in the world to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't engaged with porn. I think it's since 2011 now. And even then it was a couple years of sobriety intermits before that slip. So we're talking, I haven't really engaged with porn in probably, 15 years on any consistent level or even at all. And yet I still know if you strap me down today and made me watch it, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
Right.
I'd be like, this is, it would still be pretty great. And so, but it took over everything, right? Obsessive thinking. I made really poor choices. It started having consequences on my marriage. And it made me feel on the inside like a piece of crap. Like one thing I realized, one of my last relapses, actually a big relapse. Probably it was like in 2005 or 2003 or somewhere in there. It was a big relapse. That relapse just uncovered that I had this belief that I was unlovable. And what I realized was that one of the things that porn, was trying to escape with porn was the feeling that I was unlovable, or the belief that I was unlovable. And so whenever things would happen where I would feel disappointed or rejected, that unlovable lie would creep up, and then I'd want to get as far away from it as possible. And what makes me feel more loved, affirmed, accepted, nurtured, cared for than porn? It's so tied in with that kind of feeling. And but like most addiction, once it's done, I feel even more of the thing I was trying to escape. The unlovable lie
Right.
was even more. So I realized I was actually agreeing with the lie that I was unlovable every time I grabbed porn.
Wow. Yeah, that's profound.
Yeah. I wasn't just feeling unlovable. I wasn't just sort of believing I was unlovable. It was, or I wasn't feeling it. It was, I was agreeing with it. It's like, I was basically saying internally, I'm unlovable and I need this external thing, porn, to make me feel good enough. And I can still see that temptation today. Not so much to look at porn, but that temptation to agree that I'm unlovable and then try to grab for something, whether it's your affirmation, whether it's my wife's uh, affirmation, or a woman at church, or something on TV. I feel like there's always a part of me that's trying to sneakily get that need met.
Hmm.
And so I have to really work hard at going, I'm not going to treat myself as unlovable. I'm not going to agree with this. I'm going to call it out when I see it. I'm going to check it in with John, who, by the way, I still get together with every 2 weeks. We rarely ever talk about porn or porn behaviors anymore, but we're always talking about sneaky ways of trying to get needs, things that are coming up for us, things where we're growing, challenges in our life. We're always sharing those things. But anyway, I've been talking a lot, so I'll turn it back to you.
No, I think that's fantastic because um, I think that like what you're talking about, the idea of being understood, and I think you really hit the nail on the head. That resonated a lot with me was hearing somebody's story, hearing their what hit me when I it was like the opening minute of like you talking the first podcast was um it just hit me like it was so relatable to me because I think it was about coming clean. I think that might be the title of it. But to me it just hit me so hard like being like, oh my gosh, like he's saying exactly the things that I'm feeling right now. And having that understanding that someone else is going through it, and then like you're saying there's somebody else ahead of you, like you're saying you've been sober for over a decade, and that's you're somebody I can look ahead at and say, hey, I can do that too. I can be like Matt, you know. And I think, but it's that understanding, and I think the thing that you just said about how like I love the porn experience. I think that's something as well that maybe not a lot of people like want to admit, but I think that is like a big part of it. Like it's very it sucks you in. Like it's got its hooks in you. Uh, I call it a lot the that porn is like a vampire. I did a podcast on that, and something that you see in the movies when someone's being fed on by the vampire. Sometimes it's like they have like that pure ecstasy, like when they're feeding on their neck. Like you're being sucked dry, but while you're being sucked dry, you're having this feeling of uh, deep, immense ecstasy almost. That's how I would describe it for me. But then, like you said, once you realize that, hey, it's kind of becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. For me, my thing was always that I don't have any value. So kind of similar to, I think, the unlovable, but I've talked about it before. But the thing that really locked in, I think, the my relationship with porn was my dad struggled with drinking. He was never abusive or anything like that, but he was just distant. And it was around the time I was going into high school, and my dad played college basketball, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And it just seemed like every time there was some big event, or hey, I'd get home from school or from practice, he would just be on the chair kind of slouched. And right when I would know that he was drunk, I would just go straight to the basement where my room was, and I would just go straight to the computer and go to porn. So it was like my coping mechanism whenever uh, I felt like my dad valued the alcohol more than me. So I'd go to the porn. And it really took me realizing that to break free of it, of realizing, and for me, it was actually through doing EMDR therapy with my
Mm.
therapist. It was kind of nuts. It really like unlocked a lot of memories for me, core memories. Uh, but I think that's an important thing in recovery, right? Is like you're saying, is to be really honest of like, okay, like why am I going to this? Like deep down, like what's the root of it? Like why do I go? Like what am I getting out of it? And I think oftentimes people kind of just pass it off as, well, I'm a man and I need to, I have sexual urges. Like that's what I hear all the time is, I just need to release some stress. But it's like, well, what's deeper than that, right? What's the solution? Like what are you actually pursuing here? Um,
Even like sometimes you start talking about the deeper conversation and someone will push back on you, and I'll be like, okay, let's not get deep. Let's keep it really surfacey. Um, do you ever use porn for boredom? Oh yeah, all the time. Well, why can't you just be bored? Like, again, just be bored.
hmm.
Why do you have to use porn to escape boredom?
True.
Like
Great question.
I'm not asking you to tell me a story like Mac about dad, drunk on the couch, or something else bad from your childhood. I'm just saying, why can't you be bored for 10 minutes without doing this? Isn't there, doesn't that make you think that there's something there that you're escaping, avoiding, that's maybe problematic?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
sure. I'm sure and does that typically that question, does that normally open up some dialogue?
Yeah, it usually there's always some part of denial where people are excusing how dependent they are on their phone or how dependent they are on these little behaviors, these rituals. And it's like, you keep escaping every time you have 10 minutes free, you end up escaping your life. You're not really living your life. You're on the sidelines. And yeah, I get really tired with some of those conversations. I'm getting kind of tired with the whole thing right now.
I know
If
I
I hear,
listened to your last podcast.
I was telling Jason George, another friend of mine, we were just trading emails about this today or texts. And I said, if I hear another grown man talking about struggling with Instagram or TikTok, I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, enough already. Like I don't see, I'm not telling you have to be on it or off it but I don't get why that's even still a part of your world anymore if it's causing you so much anguish that you're bringing it up with me. You know, I'm a paid coach. I work usually with a fee, and
Right.
it's not cheap for a lot of people. Like they have to like think about it. Do I really want to do this? Do I want to work with Matt? And then they'll bring like TikTok to me, and it's like, do we want to spend this time talking about TikTok?
Right.
Like, think about it. Like the
Well,
meter's running here. Do you want to? Do you want to? Do you want any more growth in your life than this stupid app that is a time waster?
that's such a great point.
That sounds like maybe callous, but it is funny. I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking about this.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it makes sense though from your perspective is you really want to help people and I think at least for me, think about me and other people I know that I've worked with and uh it typically is something a little bit deeper than just social media or I often find that it's almost like it's a projection of it's and I can't when I get kind of ticked off is when people start blaming like women for how they dress or I'm like okay like you don't need to be staring at them like a dog like and I think it was an episode maybe with Craig Parra if I'm not mistaken where he was talking about going to like Burning Man or something like that. Was it Craig Parra? Do you remember that?
He went to Coachella, and we
Coachella,
talked
that's
about
what it
that.
was.
A
Yeah,
concert, yeah.
and I think the theme of that, right, is like you still like most of us, right? Like 99% of us still have to use the internet, still have to go on the internet, or still have to interact with people. And I think sometimes people focus so much on avoiding things. Like I gotta avoid that. I can't go on the internet anymore, or I have to get a flip phone, or I can't go to the gym anymore because there's women that dress a certain way. And like your book, which I love what you have here, becoming the type of man who does not look at porn. I think that's the important thing, right? Is like becoming the type of man that if you go to the gym, you're there to work out. If you're walking the streets or in the supermarket, you're there to do something. You're not there to be scoping out chicks, or to be getting those hits like you're saying,
Yeah. So
you know?
Craig Para, this other coach, he went to Coachella with his daughter and he wanted to connect with his daughter and he had a great time with her. And that was the whole reason he was there. And we talked about that and he was reminding himself of the purpose that he was there. And he was actually being very present. And even though there were things there that were challenging, and he kept reminding himself of his why and his purpose. And I thought we did an excellent job sharing about that. And sure enough, I get criticism from a dude like the day after it releases, like, I can't believe you talked about that. And, you're causing guys to stumble and, this and that. I'm like, dude, you're making the exact argument why we presented it. And I don't go out of my way in my podcast to trigger people. Like
Sure.
I don't even know if we talked about one of the artists that he saw, because I think I try to avoid using female names. I try to avoid things that would create obsessive thinking.
Yeah, same.
But yet, dude, you're making my point. Um, I told the guys at our Rev groups once. I said, listen, if you get triggered here, guess what? You're in the best place possible to be triggered. This is a place where you can honestly talk about what's coming up for you. You can clean it up. If someone triggered you because they said something inappropriate or something that kind of triggered you, well, you can bring it up. You can maybe make an agreement or make a request. Or you can just own it and ask for support. Like, the goal in life is to never be triggered. The goal is how do you manage in healthy ways what comes up for you?
Mm. Yeah, and how to spot it. I think it might have been one of your early episodes too. I've mentioned this in my podcast, but when I was on that mountain retreat, listen to all your episodes, I found myself with a journal writing down all the things that triggered me. And I remember I wrote down women in white cars. And I thought that was such a funny, I was like, okay, write it down, write it down. And I just bring that up because it might sound silly, right? But in a way, it's helpful to just break that seal of just being honest and being vulnerable with yourself. And then being able to have that open door to a group or to your coach or to an accountability partner to where you can say, I mean, I think as you go into recovery, you start to, it's almost like the smaller things you can start to mention and you can catch them early and say, hey, like that thing that I saw at B place, hey, that triggered me, but this is what I'm doing about it. Like this is the actions that I'm taking. And I do that daily. I check in with my brother. We do fast check-ins every day with voice memos. And I find like that's so helpful for me because I can just voice out whatever's on my mind. And oftentimes, like you're talking about, I mean,
What's
that's
your
one of the
brother's
biggest
name, by
things.
the way? You keep mentioning him.
Noah.
Noah. Well, shout out to Noah.
Yeah, he's been a big fan, man. I think we've been I think I was going through it in my recovery and then we became recovery accountability partners February 2023 on Valentine's Day is when we decided to do daily check-ins. And we talk about your podcast, we talk about Vern's podcast we listen to a lot. It's good stuff. It helps us, I think, gives us perspectives that we can talk about, right? Ideas, things that can challenge us to, be better and do better. But no, I think but I think that's it's such an interesting thing because I think when I brought up that Coachella episode, that really stuck with me just because to me that made a lot of sense, right? Is you still have to be a person of the world. You can't just live in a hole. And I think you said this on an episode too, if I'm not mistaken, but kind of like, what do you want to be on your gravestone? Is it like, Matt, or it was like Mac, like avoided porn or something like that for his whole life or whatever, and that's it. Like, hey, I avoided it. I did it, I avoided porn my whole life.
I don't think that was me who said that. It sounds like a
Okay.
Vern. That
It
sounds
might
like
have been
Vern.
Vern. It might have been Vern, but that stuck with me because I think like what you
I
talked
like that though.
yeah.
Matt, he avoided porn from 2011 to 20,
It's like a checkbox.
2085.
uh, but
Matt, he never had a TikTok account.
yeah, Mac, he never went on to OnlyFans. Like, great job, dude. uh, but I think that's the framing sometimes in people's minds. It seems like when
Matt, he only used Grubhub and not other sites.
Yeah, be like Mac, like he peaked a little bit during that scene, but he mainly looked away right at the nick of time.
Perfect. Perfect.
Um, but yeah, like your latest podcast, and I definitely recommend everybody
I keep thinking of jokes.
No, we can keep going if you want.
Matt, wait, what's that show? Matt, he only watched the clean episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking about that.
I haven't watched any episodes, but
It is that is interesting though, because like when I watch I don't really watch that much TV. Like literally the only shows I watch are with my girlfriend, and we watch King of the Hill and we watch 24. And that's not because like I'm trying to
Bobby.
yeah,
That's all. That's my King of the Hill. Bobby.
they had such a great episode. You should check it out. I don't know if you remember this. There's an episode they do on cigarettes. I really want to do either write about it or do a podcast about it, but it's such a good episode about addiction because Bobby, him and his friend, they find like a cigarette in a dumpster, and then they smoke it like in some closet, and then Hank discovers them, and unbeknownst to everybody, like Hank and Peggy used to smoke cigarettes like when they were dating, so I have all these memories of them being young and smoking cigarettes. And Hank basically, to get Bobby to quit smoking cigarettes, he's like, you have to smoke like 10 cartons, just to get him sick. And then Hank's like watching him smoke, and he's like, hey, you're not holding it right. You're holding it like a French man. This is how you hold a cigarette. And there's a part where he like holds it, and he's like, looks at it, and he's like, oh gosh, puts it down. And I won't spoil the episode, but it just gets progressively worse but it's such a good episode. The more I watch King of the Hill, they do such a good job of like kind of like hard to talk about, like addiction or different things. And they just do such a masterful job of like making it funny, comical, relatable, that kind of thing. Man, that was a good laugh.
Yeah, my dad found a can of Copenhagen in my stuff, and he goes, well, this is probably like sixth grade. He's like, well, show me how you dip it. And I took the smallest pinch possible. It was like a little tiny, like less than a pea size of Copenhagen, put it under my lip. And he goes, that's not a dip. And he smacks the thing on his leg.
Oh boy.
And does that thing where he cuts, I don't know if this got to Colorado, but he cuts it with the top and gets this plug, and then he puts it in under the lip, and it burned. Ugh. And it just immediately, I feel all the nicotine, and it was just awful. that was the end of me.
Yeah.
That was the end of me dipping.
He gave you the Hank Hill treatment there.
Yeah. All right, I'm getting us off track.
No. It's great. I mean, that's what I love whenever I have guests on, is just to talk and give different perspectives on things. And Uh, but I think that is maybe just to bring that point back is I think it's a perspective thing. It's in
I
your
don't
it's
think that
just in
would
your
work
mind.
with porn, right? If if I
No,
caught
yeah,
my
well,
kid
yeah,
looking at porn and then I said, "Oh, here's what you need to do:
look at
watch
more.
it for 6 hours." No, I don't think that would work.
Well, that's interesting because okay, real quick, this will loop into it, but something my brother and I talked about. He's an addiction therapist, and he got into it. And one thing that he mentioned on our episode, which I've heard mentioned multiple times, I don't know if you've heard this before, but what makes porn such a different thing than substances, like alcohol or drugs, is it's not gonna like put you in a body bag. Like if you sat your son down and said, "Hey, you're just gonna keep drink. I'm gonna have you drink until you're sick." Like that could put your son in the hospital, right? Or something else. But with porn, like you just hit the nail on the head. I think what makes porn tougher in some ways and different is you're not going to like OD. You can't like OD on porn, right? Like it'll affect probably your sleep. Like if for me, I would just stay up all night, looking at it, or you might feel kind of sick or you just feel drained. But it's not like you're just going to put you like in a body bag, but it affects you in such a different way to where you start looking at women differently. You start interacting with people differently. It affects your relationship as a Christian, at least for me, like with God. Like it distances you from God. So maybe we could touch on that a bit because I think you open the door for that. Is I think that's what makes porn so sneaky. Is it's not going to do the same things as other things.
I
Like
have a theory, and maybe Noah would agree with this, but I have a theory that of all the addictions out there, gambling, I'm thinking of behavioral addictions and substance, right?
yep.
Drinking, drugs. That porn is one of the only ones I know of that has such a high relational component,
Mm,
right? Like there's something relational about it, meaning I want a sense of affirmation. I want to feel important. I want to feel loved or worshiped, or I want to worship someone. There's like this weird exchange that some seems like it's in a relational need that kicks in with porn. It could just be the biological part, right? The orgasm and wanting to procreate. Maybe it's just how we're wired that ties that in. But I think that's one thing that's unique about it. Because when I hear guys use porn, talk about why they use porn, I hear things like, I don't feel good enough, or I want to feel desired, or I want this. And it feels like a relational need that's getting expressed. Where sometimes when I hear people talk about alcohol, they're like, well, I feel anxious. And so I use alcohol, or I don't feel good in a social situation. So I use alcohol to compensate,
right.
and maybe it is right. Or like gambling, there's like this rush and I love the feeling of winning or whatever. But I think porn's the one that I hear there's this relational thing. Um, so that's the one thing I think. And I think everyone thinks they're unique. Everyone thinks their addiction is the unique one. So I'm
Right.
sure there's other ways of looking at other addictions that are unique to those things. But when I think about why porn was so challenging to me, because it's so tapped into that unlovable piece with me, and it's so tapped into wanting to be seen and cared for and nurtured and understood. All those things, um, kind of went hand in hand with porn. Whereas, I'll give you an example. I don't have any interest in gaming. I've
Mm,
never had an interest in gaming. Some people say, oh, gaming and porn are just alike. Well, not to me.
right.
Whatever gaming gives you, it doesn't give me what I want, what I am looking for. It's not that I can't be addicted to a game. I remember, playing Halo once, and
Oh, great game.
and I love Tony Hawk in the old days.
Mm,
But I actually bought an Xbox, believe it or not, in that period after the demonic whatever, as a way to have something to do that was kind of fun and safe.
Okay.
Because back then, Xbox, you couldn't get online with them. Interestingly enough, though, just to show you the addiction piece, I bought a modded chip from Thailand and soldered it to my Xbox, and I was able to get porn on my Xbox, original Xbox. So
wow.
it's like, how like in Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs find a way. I always could find a way. So that safe Xbox that I had, I figured out how to make it unsafe. So again, gaming was not like, I wasn't trying to mod my Xbox to get free games.
Right.
I think deep down it was like, I liked the idea of, this thing, and so it's such a deeper pull for me, probably because of the relational piece.
Yeah. And I think too, it's just so accessible, right? It's free. You can be anonymous. Because I think, like, in order to get a drink, right, you got to go somewhere to get a drink. Like, you got to physically go and like buy some alcohol.
Well, again, I know this is the millennial podcast, but it wasn't free when I got
Right.
addicted. I had to buy it. I had to go buy it, acquire it, steal it, rent it, and that did add a level of obstacle. And I used to say sometimes I stayed porn free because I didn't have money, or I stayed porn free because I had thrown away my stash and I didn't have anything. And so just that at some point craving passes. If you don't engage craving, it goes away. So there were many days that I would go a week or two without porn because I literally didn't have porn.
Right.
It wasn't quite that I had built a lot of tools or had a lot of growth. It was more the absence of it. But you're right. Nowadays, if you don't have a plan for your smartphone will serve up porn whenever you want it.
Totally.
So when I talk to a guy and I'm like, what's your plan for your smartphone? I'm not telling you how to live your life or what you need. I'm just saying, if you have determined that you have, problematic porn use and you want to change it, and you don't have a plan for your phone, it's a non-starter.
Yeah, I remember when I was working with Vern, when it was actually when Noah became my accountability partner. It was leading up to my divorce being finalized, and I was just sliding around for it was about a month or two when I separated from my ex. And I just remember Vern telling me, he's like, hey, Mac, like, you got to make it easier on yourself, and you need to download some kind of accountability software. And the interesting thing about it was, I think it was Accountable to You is what I downloaded, and it sends like texts and emails to somebody, whoever your accountability partner is, if you're looking at triggering content. And that in turn, which is really interesting, right? In order to get accountability software, like, you need to have an accountability partner, right? So then that brought in my little brother into the mix, where he downloaded it too. So it wasn't just that I got software on my phone, but I also got a partner, somebody that I could talk to. And then we incorporated the fast check-in model in our check-ins. And oh my gosh, it made such a big difference. It was like the minute I downloaded that software, it was like, I just felt like I could breathe again, because it just took like that tension, or it added a natural obstacle, a natural friction to my craving to look at porn, because I knew if I looked at it, then he's going to be getting an alert right away. And he's my little brother. Like, I want to be that big brother for him, someone that, a man ahead of him that he can look up to. Right. But that's such a great point, though. If you don't have a plan in today's age, I mean, gosh, you're done. I mean, not done, but like you're going to jump right back into it.
Yeah. I think some guys fall into this trap of, well, I tried to do something to change my relationship with porn, and well, I got disappointed, or I went back to it and kind of abandoning it. It's like, well, I think in the absence of a plan and absence of doing anything intention, it will be the thing you go back to. It's not that you're hopeless to change. It's
Sure.
that you kind of have a default, and if you want to do something different, you have to actively change
Right.
and grow. And if you're not willing to do any of that, it's gonna be one of those things, right? If it was just your intentions, you know, I mean, this is the difference between an addiction or problematic use of something. If it was capable for you to change your relationship with it without doing anything, just making an intention, you would do it. You could do it. Like none of like, have you ever been a compulsive gambler?
I had a, not, I wouldn't say super compulsive, but there was a time I think when I had DraftKings on my phone
Okay.
to
Well,
where I would
all
just
right.
be
Bad
betting on
example. Bad
games.
example. Have you ever been a smoker?
No.
Okay. So, Mac, what did you do to quit smoking?
Just
Right? You
never
just said,
started.
I don't want to smoke.
Yeah.
No, it's like, I don't smoke.
All right,
Right?
right, right.
The people who don't have a problematic use of something or a behavioral addiction, that's the what they do. That's the extent of it. They just make a choice. But once you are in something and you're having trouble letting go of it, and you're going back to it, then the only way you're going to let go of it is by actually doing some work to actively change the ritual, actively change the beliefs that are allowing it, and even the access or the environment, like influencing like how you are what your environment looks like. I think it would be hard to get sober from alcohol with a beer full of fridge, or a fridge full of beer.
Right.
Um, I think it would be hard to quit porn if your phone just had all your, links saved. And at any moment that you felt any sort of negative feeling, whether it was boredom or whether it was rejection, you could just click on something. It's going to be a pain. There's never going to be any progress made.
Yeah, sure. No, great points. Great points, Matt. Um, yeah, I've got a few more questions for you. Again, really appreciate your time today. Uh, but I think one thing, like, bringing it back to the man head, was there like a point in time like where you realized you were that man for somebody else, or you were ready to lead other men? Because I know that that's something too that I think was a part of my journey is, hey, like, am I ready to start talking about this and helping other people out? Because I think there is a little bit of that doubt inside of, like, who's going to listen to me, or am I that guy that someone can take hope from? Was there like a moment for you where you started to help other people, and where that role started to become clear for you?
Yeah, and it's probably not an answer that you would think. I went to the Mario group and I had a really good experience there. And I went with a friend of mine, and it was at another church in the city. And I'm in the north suburbs, and so I had to drive into the city to go to this thing. And I remember thinking, gosh, why couldn't we do something like this at our church? A kind of a discipleship ministry that focused on sexual and relational issues for men and women. Why couldn't we do it? And it's a story of how I realized I could be the one to help bring it. But let's just say that I wasn't that far ahead. I I took action a lot. It was like ready, fire, aim. It was a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit like that,
yeah.
right? So imagine this. Fast forward a couple years into recovery. I'm now leading a group with men and women, And we met on Sunday nights. Now, if you ever listen to Pornfree Radio, you know that I'm a Bears fan.
The Bears are who we thought they were.
That's the wrong one.
The Bears. The Bears.
Right. So
I feel honored by you just doing that on my podcast.
I love the Bears.
Right.
And this Sunday, this fall, whatever fall it was, 2004 or 2000 whatever, there were 2 Bears games on 2 Sundays, like in the period when we were going to run our group.
Okay. Big sacrifice.
Right. Well, so I strategically scheduled the group to be off these weeks. So imagine you're meeting September 1st and you're meeting September 7th. Then all of a sudden, September 10th, September 14th, you're off. And then you're back September 21st, and then you're off September 28th. And, no one questioned it. And, towards the end of the run, a woman pulled me aside. To this day, I don't remember who it was. She pulled me aside. She said, Matt, this group has been really life-changing for me. It's been really important for me in my own healing. She had some trauma in her past, and this was a really good starting point for her. She said, but I want to talk about the schedule. She goes, I'm looking at these dates, and I go, Matt scheduled off these nights for the Bears. And she said, I'm kind of hurt by that because I'm coming with the deepest wounds and pain in my life.
Yeah.
And it feels like you scheduled these nights off for the Bears. And man, when she said it was like I'm almost sad thinking about it now. It was like a lightning bolt. Like I was still thinking of myself as kind of the happy porn addict, right? Who's, messy and sloppy. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly, guys. Come along, let's do this. But she was looking for me to be someone who could hold her pain, hold space for her pain, and hold space for this thing that was defining her life, and be safe enough so that she could recover. And I know I just joked and played the sample, but
yeah, that's meaningful.
And I do it on the podcast sometimes. Sometimes we're goofing around and we're playing,
Sure.
We're having fun. But I never forgot that. And I never scheduled a group off because of the Bears again, or the Bulls, or the Cubs. And I, luckily TiVo and some of that stuff started making it easy to just go home and watch it. But
Sure.
But that thought of I'm now the Mario in this story. I'm not the participant. I'm not the guy just whatever.
Right.
It matters that I show up and be present. And it matters. My recovery matters to other people. My leadership matters. And you see this in a group. You've probably seen this in things you've done. Everyone comes to a group me focused. I have a problem, so I'm coming to this group. And some guys just stay in that spot. They'll blow off group, and you'll be like, hey, where were you at group? Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
It was really important for me and my wife to go out to dinner. It's super important, and kind of like, it doesn't matter if I don't show up, because it's just about me and my recovery. Or I was doing really good this week and I just got busy, and what they're saying is it doesn't really matter about anybody else in the group. It's just about me. Mm-hmm. And then even in their check-ins, you know, I hear this all the time. You know, I didn't really reach out to anybody this week, and I kind of had a tough week, and it's all about them. And it's like the whole reason that you got addicted to porn, that it was such a struggle for you, is because you got isolated, and because you were trying to do everything on your own and trying to manage your stress, manage all these negative things in your life with no tools and without other people. And this thing overtook your life. And now you're in recovery and you're using the same playbook that you had in porn. You're alone, you're overwhelmed, and you're just kind of trying to do it on your own. And you're not even thinking of other people. Right. You're completely self-focused in your recovery. And you see this shift where guys go from thinking about just them, me, to we. They start thinking about, gosh, the other guys in this group are struggling. I should call this guy. Or I remember being in my group where I heard a guy sharing very vulnerably, and I saw a guy next to him tear up. And I thought, the guy tearing up, he's getting it.
Yeah.
He's starting to see the reason he's here is not just for himself, it's for this other guy. And there's something valuable about being with this other guy. He's feeling seen and heard and connecting. And there's this like reciprocal connection that happens. That can't happen if you're staying in the me focused kind of thing. So yeah, that was when it got me, is when that woman confronted me.
That's such a powerful story. That's so powerful. And I think too, when you jump into that, or when you step into that role of leading other people, I think it helps like it helps sharpen you in your recovery. I talk about it a lot, but I have a Monday newsletter, and then I write every Friday as well. I write poems and stuff, but you know, part of what I'm writing is it helps keep me focused, and it helps keep me thinking about other people too, because I'm thinking about, well, what's going to resonate with somebody, you know, what's going to help somebody have a different perspective on things. And I think that's a cool thing about maybe being ahead of somebody, right? Is you have that responsibility to where you have to show up because someone else is looking ahead at you and what you're doing, right? And it gives them hope. It gives them hope. That's fantastic. What a powerful story there. And then was there something that really got you going where you were like, hey, I need to do a podcast and talk about this?
Yeah. Well, said group had a lot of people in it in the early 2000s. So I was running that group 2003. And there were men and women, and coming in with trauma, coming in with gender confusion, self-hatred, some sexual addiction. But what happened is, right at the time we were running the group, broadband came in. You know, I talked about putting a modem together, and it's like, that's 2001. 2004, DSL and cable modems start coming. Then YouTube comes out. And then by 2010, people are starting to have smartphones.
Right.
With data. And what happened was, in that group, more people started showing porn symptoms, right? Porn, it was sexual trauma. It was sexual trauma from childhood and porn. It was a woman was getting into sexual conversations online. It was videos. It was erotic fiction. It was sharing stories. It all of a sudden became porn started showing up more and more in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when I first went in 2001, I'm explaining edging, I'm explaining being at the video store, explaining how I got porn on my Xbox. You know, I remember telling my pastor once, I looked at porn on my Xbox. He's like, your Xbox? It
What's
connects
that?
It connects to your TV. How does, like, his mind is it's one wire, you know,
Right.
Xbox to TV. Like, he's thinking, where's the porn coming from?
Right.
I'm having to explain. Now, 10 years, fast forward 10 years, I'm actually not the exception anymore. Everyone is having an issue. And so I got sick of talking about porn because it distracted us from all the other things we wanted to talk about. Talk about our wounds and talk about our parents and talk about all these other things that we had in our program. All of a sudden, porn is taking a lot of the conversation. And that's when I started thinking, what if there was just a resource about porn? And maybe this could be something I could even direct people to, so that even in our groups, I could say, well, go listen to podcast 5 about this thing.
Right.
So that was kind of the idea. The other idea, it was kind of at the time I was working my corporate job, and this is before side hustles and all that stuff. But I remember thinking it would be fun to create something on my own. And the old way of thinking back then, entrepreneurial, was like, what do people ask you about? You know, what do people always come to you for help about? And because of my own recovery and communicating just my challenges, people are always saying, oh, what filter should I use? Or have you ever, how do you travel in hotel rooms and not look at porn? And like, right. People would always come to me about it. And so that's those are the two things that kind of pushed record on episode 1.
You know what? It's interesting. Whenever I go on a business trip and I'm in a hotel, I do just think about your podcast. You know, it's like burned in my mind of just having a plan, which it's so cool. I mean, Mac, that's how meaningful
I don't know if you've heard this, and I mean, this has been proven that it is scientifically impossible to maintain an erection if you're listening to my podcast. It's just my voice, the tenor of my voice kills all erections. So if you're struggling in a hotel room, just put on Pornfree Radio, any episode, doesn't matter. It can be the episodes about the NFL. Just hearing me talk, just again, it's just a complete killer of erections. Slayer, an erection slayer.
Erection slayer. Yeah, this might give you a good chuckle. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but there's been moments in working with my little brother where, you know, one of us has been edging or, you know, in the danger zone, and we'll send each other pictures of somebody like bombing a toilet or something. We call it the nuke, you know, like we'll just nuke each other, just really disgusting pictures of just like a diaper or something like that. Just something to like really kill whatever that buzz is. We haven't had to do that for a really long time. We haven't had to go to that option, but we know it's out there. Like we know that, hey, if there's a yellow check-in on Monday and then Tuesday's a yellow, something's coming your way that's not going to be appetizing.
Just start sending random episodes of my podcast.
Yeah,
and don't even pick the good ones, because I think the good ones might be entertaining or interesting. Pick the bad ones, because those are really the ones that kill all erections. You start listening to it and you go, you know, I'd like to do something else with my time right now. I think I'd like to get a book, or I'd like to just go to sleep, to be honest. See, a good podcast, you might go, wow, this is kind of entertaining, kind of fun. And you're still awake. You're still sort of energized. And you still, even though you're not looking at porn, you're still sort of thinking.
Yeah.
But you put on one of the boring ones, then it really is like, I got to go to bed. I need to rethink my life choices.
Well, hey, That's hilarious. But I think it is so interesting, throughout this whole conversation, some good laughs, but
Wait, funny anecdote.
yeah.
I got I've been doing the podcast so long, and
Right.
it's called Pornfree Radio, and I over the years would play music every once in a while, hoping at some point there would be a blanket license for podcasters like radio. If you have a radio station, you pay this blanket license and you can play music and talk over it, and it's just completely normal. But they still have these antiquated rules when it comes to podcasting. And I kept hoping at some point, it'd be okay. Well, Spotify dinged like 25 of my podcasts recently, and I had to like take out songs, and I had to edit them and repost them. I actually had to create new old episodes.
Oh gosh.
So if you ever go back in my back catalog now, you're going to start hearing podcasts where I don't have songs and things are missing. But regardless, where was I going with this?
Funny anecdote.
It was a funny anecdote. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going back and editing these episodes, and in some of these episodes, I'm just going on and on and on, telling an anecdote about an old rap song, or talking about the Killers or Rage Against the Machine. And at some point, I'm like, Matt, already just get to the get to Pornfree Radio already. Like, no one cares.
You're just listening back like 7 years ago. You're like, what were you thinking?
I mean, there was a couple of these episodes where I was taking stuff out that Spotify didn't even ask me to take out. I'm like, I'm just getting rid of this whole chunk. This is such a waste of time.
You're doing everyone a favor. You're like,
yeah, new people going back and listening to episode 27 will thank me, because they won't hear the 10 minutes on the lead singer of the Killers.
Oh, that's funny. Well, there's that one song that's a great song that my brother and I love, is from Brother Ali, I believe, right? I think is it The Bitten Apple? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, Rotten Apple or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a great song.
Yeah, and that hasn't gotten dinged yet, but one of these days I might have to pull that out.
Because did you end up, didn't you talk to him?
No, I never talked to him.
Never talked to him.
I just happened to be. I've been at a couple shows that he did, though.
Okay, yeah. What a great song, though. I'll turn that on sometimes, and it's such a good rhythm, and the lyrics are fantastic. But no, I love how you do that, because I think you've always been passionate about music, so it's cool how now we joke about it, including it, but it's cool how you can include like your passion for music and your passion for the soundboard, adding that in. I always love that, because it's a flare of your personality, and I think that's like to the greater point of talking about recovery, is to still maintain like your personality and lean into things that you're passionate about, that you love to do, right?
What's crazy is I loved radio growing up, and I have a setup that I could have only dreamed of in the 90s. The microphone I'm using is a Shure SM7B. This is like the microphone Howard Stern uses. My little soundboard, it's a Rodecaster, but just to have
Yo, can we get a mic check? Can we get a mic check?
Just have ability to play samples at any time. Even I'll show you one other thing.
Yeah.
Let's see if I have this here. Wait, can you hear that? Hold on.
Yeah,
1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yeah. So if you're listening right now, there's another mic.
If you're listening, I heard you were watching The Exorcist, Mac. I had some notes.
I was actually in that. I was in that for a little bit. They got my character completely wrong. Oh, that's so cool, man. I love it, man.
Just
these tools.
Just the fun of that. So yeah, I feel bad for Pornfree Radio listeners sometimes, because it's like, well, this is part of the reason I'm behind the mic. I like goofing around with this stuff. And if I don't do this, then I'm like, I'm bored, or I get bored easily. So,
But I think as a listener of yours, and I think I've always enjoyed it because for me, and then like you helped inspire me start a podcast. And I think what I love about whenever I listen to you is you can just, whenever like you're with your brother or by yourself or with other people, there is a sense of that, the mat, like you're having fun. And then when you get serious, you need to get serious, but I think sometimes people have this misconception of if I live a porn-free life, I'm just going to be boring and life's going to be dull. But it's the complete opposite, I think, is when you actually are leaning into recovery and leaning into who you are and rediscovering yourself and rebuilding this identity that you're proud of. Oh my gosh, it's like bliss. Like I've experienced so much bliss in recovery and moments of experiencing emotions that could be having a moment where I just have a good cry and I feel my emotions. And like you said, like if you're bored, sit in it. If you're sad, like you don't have to escape being sad. Or if you're feeling like you're saying, like joking around or goofing off, you can embrace it. You don't have to run away. You can embrace who you are and have pride in that, and and start to understand who you are as a person, right? Fully. You're not having this monkey on your back or hiding things. You can just be you.
yes, I agree. You are correct, sir.
But I think that's what the man ahead. I think that's what helps is that's why I love your podcast. I've mentioned on my podcast before saying, hey, here's something I've heard from Pornfree Radio.
Here's an old Gen Xer that you can listen to if you run out of Porn-Free Millennial episodes. I only have 50 guys, so if you're really desperate, go listen to some of Matt Dobschuetz's Gen X old guy podcast.
If you need to slay your erection, go to Pornfree Radio.
Slay your erection.
Yeah.
Porn-Free Radio.
That is a Halo reference, by the way. Team Slayer.
Slayer.
Yeah. But yeah, just just to land the plane, it's been a absolute honor having you on. Part of what I wanted to do too on my 50th episode of Milestone is just to tell you thank you. Thank you for what you do. I'm thankful that you took that step in your life and that you helped pave that way for me and so many other people, my little brother, giving us hope, giving us a person we could look at ahead of us. So I just wanted to thank you and honor you. It's just so meaningful to have you on today.
Well, I thank you for all those kind words. I really appreciate it. I was trying to think of a way that I could, I don't know, impart something to you. And so I was just thinking it really comes down to two words.
Erection Slayer.
Might have to change the title of this podcast,
No, I appreciate it. And it's fun. One thing that you've probably experienced and I've experienced too is, the tools that were the tools that really, threw gasoline on the fire of my addiction, in porn and, internet pornography. The same tools are the things that have led me to incredible freedom, both through connection and through software and through even this ability to communicate with others across the world. We're essentially reclaiming the tech for something valuable. And, even it's interesting, even some of the obsessive things I do, recording, editing,
yeah,
or editing my website or fixing things, those skills that used to be the obsessive thinking that I used to go find porn or to download things. Now those things are used in a creative pursuit, a harmonious passion that actually creates something valuable that makes me feel good about myself. So even though, I spend way too much time sometimes goofing around with things.
Sure.
But it's time well wasted compared to what I used to do.
Oh, that's such a great point. Yeah, I relate to that. So final question for the man ahead. So if Mario was listening to this, what would you say to him, that man ahead of you?
It's interesting that Mario, I haven't talked to in a long time. And I tried to get him to come on my podcast once, like on episode 200. I thought it was kind of a similar thing. I thought, hey, I'd love to get him on, and I couldn't make it work. I couldn't connect with him. And, but it's just gratitude. Thank you for hosting that group in 2001. And, it completely changed the course of my life. And by choices I made, it's affected lots of other people. And so that's one thing, is thanks for showing up then. I see John though pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And that concept of, John can do it, so can I. I remember John has been sober since 1999.
Wow.
And so I still look up to him. And some of the things that he models today still help me. Just recently he came to me and said, hey, I need to check something in. And he described a situation where he was feeling some pull towards someone he was working with. And it was so upstream. It doesn't even sound like a confession or any sort of danger, but he could see it.
Right.
He could, hey, I'm feeling this pull towards this person and I just want to get ahead of it. Here's the person. Here's what it is. Here's what I know about it. Here's what it's coming up for me. And by the end of the conversation, it's like he had a clear plan. He knew what he was going to do. And, I'm sure it completely killed any sort of sneakiness that was there. And also made it, kind of healthier. And he's done that for years. And so I do that. I do the same thing. We got time for one last story. It's been a couple hours here, but
yeah,
but
sure.
I'll give you an example. We were joking about me goofing around with podcasting, but I've always liked DJing. And I've DJ'd parties and weddings, and sometimes people ask me to DJ when I'm at a gathering, and I just start DJing. And I remembered I was DJing once, this is a couple of years ago, and there was a woman at this party, and I was drawn to her, and and I realized I played a song that I thought she would totally love. It was totally sneaky. And guess what, Mac? She loved it. And I knew she would love it. And I come back to John and I go, I got to check something in. I just did this kind of sneaky thing. I'm in a party with all my friends and my wife's there, and I'm sneakily pressing play on this song to get something, right? It's to pick someone's pocket, essentially, right? I'm trying to get a need met in a sneaky way. And of course, John knew exactly what I'm talking about. He totally got it.
Right.
And as soon as I checked it in, I'm like, I felt better about it. And you know, and now I don't even have any shame about it now. I'm just happy that I had tools and I had someone to go to with it, and I could tell my wife about it. She would be like, "Oh, of course you were trying to impress her, right?"
Right.
Or of course you, like my wife would be like, "Yeah, I can see that," or "Yeah, that's you. I knew that," or "Of course that's why you like to DJ. You like girls responding to music you're playing, duh."
Right.
So it's like, but just being in that kind of open connection where we can check things in so quickly, that's him modeling that over the years, really helped me. And, you know, things I share in the podcast, like travel plans and, ideas, a lot of times John has modeled that first, and then I just parrot it for the rest of the audience.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's never come on the podcast, which drives me nuts. The guy sits in the chairs behind us every other week, chit-chatting with me, talking about our lives, and he never gets on one of these microphones, which is super painful.
You'll have to get like a episode 400 or something, 500
maybe. Yeah, I'll have to get to that point, and then I'll bring him on.
Well, yeah. Thanks for all the wisdom, the stories, the laughs. Lots of laughs today. Yeah, Matt. Just thank you, and I know. So for where people can find you, Pornfree Radio, fantastic podcast. Buy Matt's book, Pornfree, and then Matt, you also do coaching as well. It's Recovered Man, correct?
Yeah, recoveredman.com, but there's stuff there, but yeah, get on the podcast. If there's no new Pornfree Millennial episodes, you know, the Pornfree Gen Xer, it could be a substitute.
Right on. But yeah, Matt, I mean, I think we almost hit 2 hours here. So I just wanted to say, you know, thanks again. Big honor having you on, man. And yeah, everybody, just tune in to Pornfree Radio if you're running out of Pornfree Millennial episodes. And if you need to slay an erection, I love that. It's hilarious. But no, seriously, thank you, Matt. Thanks for your time today too. You know, just taking time out of the day to talk to me. It means a lot.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to episode 50, and keep fighting the good fight. Break free, stay free, be free. Talk to y'all later. Bye.